So if you're not really paying attention to commerce and different websites, this is probably going to be a boring video for you. But for people who care about business, this one will probably be for you. Basic business. It's just more of a observation I'm making based on my experiences. If you have been watching the news and you care like I do, because I'm an Etsy consumer. I was once going to try and sell my soap on Etsy, but now not so much. But I still buy things from Etsy. But if you've been watching, it's been said that Etsy's losing money. And people believe that Etsy is losing money based on the fact that it's forgotten its roots. Etsy originally started as a quirky website that allowed you to get old-fashioned artisanal things that were handmade. The purpose of it was that you were getting a unique item that you could not get in a brick and mortar setting, or even if it was something made by someone who had a brick and mortar setting, it was so unique that you knew it was not mass produced. And I have to be honest, that was the attraction to Etsy for me. Homemade blankets. People have become multimillionaires off of this site just for selling like their version of crochet patterns, different things like that. My first shopping at Etsy, I won't say what shop it was, but I bought a green powder back when I first started getting into green juice smoothies. And I think I bought from that shop maybe once. And I looked them up maybe 2-3 years ago, and amazingly, they're still there. I will say with Etsy, I'm very displeased that it's now taken on a corporate sort of thing. But if you see the images right now, I have to confess, while I like Etsy in its purest form, in its original form, I've also benefited from its AI add-ons. See, people have complained about the images that are showing right now, but I have to admit, as a consumer that loves this type stuff, I don't really have a problem with some of it. I get it. Etsy has become a dumping ground for cheaper things that don't need to be on the site. But then again, any person can question what you say you make authentic as authentic. And let me give you an example. I have irritable bowel syndrome. I don't eat a lot of bread anyway. But I was saddened to know that when they thought it was celiac, that I might have to give up bread and gluten. So when I found out it was actually irritable bowel syndrome, I was like, okay, maybe I can eat bread every once in a blue moon. I love my sourdough and I hate giving it up. Only to find out that sourdough is one of the few breads that you can have with irritable bowel syndromes that will not aggravate your stomach. Because I would eat sandwiches with sourdough and my stomach wouldn't hurt. And I'm like, this is my favorite bread. So that worked out. And someone had to tell me, who also had a relative suffering, that Tara, you can have sourdough on irritable bowel. Now, why did I tell that story? See, there are people on Etsy that sell recipes for old-fashioned sourdoughs that go back a couple of 100 years. Tried and true recipes from certain time periods. I have an old sourdough bread starter that I haven't used yet from somewhere in Europe, I believe. It might be Italy. That was around the time of probably Voltaire. I'll put it back that far. That's artisanal, right? How do I actually prove that sourdough starter is from back in that time? As there are people on Etsy who also have sourdough starters that they say come with the Oregon Trail, that are legitimate sourdough starters, excuse me, from that time. How do I know that's legitimate? Something that looks artisanal and look legitimate cannot be legitimate. For the record, I'm on all of you guys' side. As my money continues to rise in the next year or two, Etsy will still be around. And whoever's selling artisanal things, I plan to buy for my father's house in Alabama beautiful hand-painted, handmade ceramics. Because being a baby boomer, he was born in 1958, he appreciates that handicraft as well. And it's all possible that I got that love for handicraft from my father. I mean, Etsy's such an addiction for me that sometimes that's all I shop. I could go the longest without shopping Amazon and be on Etsy. Etsy has even provided me with old books, old Black American cookbooks, old Black American recipes that people have passed down. I got the most beautiful set of earrings from Lithuania. Now they're broken. One arrived broken. Not her fault. U.S. Customs, of course, and be honest, there are some people that work for the Fed don't care about their job. I blame that on U.S. Customs when that shipped. That's just me. And I know I'll take some flack for that because they don't care. I've ordered garments from my auntie, patterns from Africa that shipped from Nigeria to Hartselle, Alabama. That's the power of Etsy. I've ordered some of the best French macarons I ever had from a legit bakery because I looked them up outside of Etsy from Oregon, and I'm here in Washington. And I think I also got some from either Pennsylvania or Massachusetts, and I also looked those bakeries up. Etsy opened up a whole new world for me. Even someone I think of Russian heritage sold me like this round cookie that's stuffed with some kind of nougat and or is it caramel? Yes, a caramel and then a walnut, some cookie, and I forgot the name that they eat it in Russia. Just a fantastic thing. Those things to me are artisanal. Most of the people that I see complaining are mainly the people who paint portraits from scratch, like a Michelangelo or a Donatello or a Raphael. Your complaints are valid, and myself, when my money gets on, I will patronize you more. But to be honest with you, I have to set things straight. While you're correct that was Etsy's original focus, and I have seen junk on that site that for the most part I myself wouldn't order. When you're running a business that high, you got to do what you got to do in desperate times. Now, this is going to be offensive. Is it all possible because of the artisanal way in which you make your craft? That's the reason it's not selling. And see, the reason I say this is in a downed economy, people cut back. Is it possible also that you're throwing your stuff up on Etsy and you are not advertising outside of Etsy, like on the Facebook, which is now called, I guess it's Meta. I don't get on there. X, formerly known as Twitter. I don't deal with either one. Never have had a Twitter account. Got rid of Facebook years ago. See, the thing about it is that you have to question if you are the type person throwing your stuff up there with the assumption that based on what it is and the fact that you handcrafted it, that people are just going to be drawn to it because it's Etsy. See, it doesn't necessarily work that way. Don't be naive about this, because I don't think you're all doing it, but that's possibility of what's happening. The intro photos, most of them used for this video, were made by artificial intelligence from Etsy artists, and I don't regret using them. But just know, as a person that most of the time like to buy artisanal things from the site, I think you have a valid point. I don't think Etsy's going away from a business standpoint, and this is why. There will always be people that will seek as authentic of a product as they possibly can. And that line between what is authentic and what is not, that's really up to the customer at the end of the day. You cannot prove, if your shop is losing money, that it is losing money for the junk that's put on there. But what you do have is a valid argument that that junk is saturating the website. What I think is going to happen is that you're just going to have to suck it up through the recession and take your chances in advertising your local areas or advertise offside of Etsy, and encourage people to sign up for a free account, because the account to Etsy itself is free. To download all your information, you just pay for whatever shops you patronize. So you're going to have to advertise your stuff. And in the process of advertising your stuff, you're going to have to suck it up and understand that this is a downed economy. Now, that's a mean thing to say, but what I'm saying is that because there are people with money in a downed economy, because everybody isn't broke, you're going to, as a business owner, have to actively pursue those people. Understand, I order my homemade soaps from scratch from Etsy. I'm going to continue to do so. I'm going to fill my father's house with ceramics from Etsy come next year when I get my large enough raise to do so. Maybe when I get my bonus in June, that's a good idea. I'm going to patronize some ceramic shops. It was ingrained in me to care for that old Americana, because there's some vintage things sold there too, and in my opinion should be able to be sold there as well. But here's the thing. Although I have patronized those type of stores, and I will continue to do so, you can neither prove nor disprove that the junk that is being put on there is the sole reason that your shop is failing. The ideal that you can just, if you are the ones doing this, that you can just throw your products up on Etsy and then complain when they don't sell, that's just not gonna fly. I am agreeing with you that they could cut back on some of those things. However, if it's making that site money, and if it's making the vendors who sell money, that's on the customer. And at the end of the day, whether you all like it or not, the customer has the hegemony on what they will and want buy. But you have my word as a person who doesn't sell on Etsy, but I buy from there quite often. I'm still gonna buy my fun, timeless type of AI images because I love them. I think they're fun. But I'll be a little more mindful of things that are handicrafted, that I've been buying for years, and patronize those more. Etsy isn't going anywhere. So far as the Etsy Conundrum is concerned, you're just going to have to start advertising off of the website as well, and build an audience outside of that, even if it's eBay. That's just my opinion about the Etsy Conundrum and how to help the sellers on the site. I understand you're all losing money because of the risen fees, which I don't agree with either. And I also hate the corporate thing they got going. But make some moves off that site as well to better grow your artisanal business.